Dimar Labega, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, colleagues, the Minister of Justice, and Finance. Thank you, MP Durant, for your presentation. Just to piggyback off of what MP LaCruz stated about education and working together, I think it would be a great idea, maybe it's already in place, to collaborate with entities such as the Chamber, when you're the notary as well, when you're opening a business or you're renewing your license, that just as how you're giving a document describing what document you need, you're also giving, hey, what document you need for tax compliancy, as well as, some educational information on how to file your taxes. You could even do a barcode where you could scan, and then it'll take you to a page and keep people reminded about taxes, because of course you have a lot of people, whether young, older, opening businesses, but they're not getting that tax information. So once you keep that in their mind visually or through a pamphlet, I think it will help with the compliance and education as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Member of Parliament Labega. I now give the floor to MP Duran. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. Good afternoon to you, my honorable colleagues, the Minister, support staff, and everyone that is tuned in. Madam Chair, I had about 3 points, of 2 of which was brought up by my colleague MP Iran, so I'll just put the last one forward to get some clarity. Through you, Madam Chair, to the Minister, different staff members within your ministry, I would say 3 to be exact, have brought some concerns forward in the sense of you making certain statements publicly regarding the need to comply with certain regulations that have been complied for years. So it's bringing sort of confusion. And also when I meet with certain individuals, even last week I had someone that was complaining about the assessment. They've been living here for over 26 years. They showed where they've been filing. I mean, at least they had the last 8 or 9 years. And there were some discrepancies. And they were told by someone else that, yes, the ministers say we don't have to do this and we don't have to do that, in the sense of not having to file in certain instances. This in itself is creating a lot of confusion. So I really would like to get some clarity on that point, especially with the point that was brought forward as well with the 5 years. After 5 years, it's expired. How is that being done? Because I know for a fact, and I always say this to individuals, sitting as a minister, I have to look out for the country's best interests. Now, to sit as a minister, you have to also look out for persons within the community because we all represent them. I know that it's a very thin line, but I do believe that clarity is needed in order to avoid confusion because, as I say, mixed signals are being sent out from the ministry and, in this case, the minister. And I think that once that is clear, that people would have a clear understanding as to what is required from them so that there's no confusion for you and also for the staff that has to enforce the laws of the land. So I would like some clarity on that point. I hope that I was clear. Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member of Parliament Duran. I now give the floor to MP Christopher Waver. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the Minister, support staff, my colleague MPs, those listening and various medias. Just briefly, very briefly, the amount of FTEs currently, and also what are we looking at when we do revamp the whole tax administrative system? And based on that as well, is there currently, because I heard the minister mention about lack of data or getting data, is there also somebody that's assigned, like a data analyst, that will be looking at this data, or is that something that will be added within the new FTEs that we're looking in when we revamp the system? Because I think having that kind of information is very key moving forward as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Member of Parliament Wavered. I give the floor to MP Westcott Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair Lady. And just briefly, I hear several questions being asked and asking the minister, to give a clarification, which is good and well and important. And in that context, I want to ask the minister if any of these areas that have been highlighted needing to inform the taxpayers can be done by means of an aanschrijving. Madam Chair Lady, you would recall that I have been in Parliament with successive ministers of finance discussing the matter of the change that needs to be made in the profit tax ordinance with respect to foundations and associations. There is correspondence to this effect by several ministers of finance acknowledging that that change needs to come. When I repeated that question, I believe it was during the budget debate, the Minister of Finance, Gums, provided an aanschrijving that anticipates on this change that needs to take place in the profit tax with respect to associations and foundations. So, first of all, I'm grateful to have received that. What is the benefit of something like aanschrijving? That means that different entities and departments can take into account that this change of law, most likely, of course it has to pass Parliament, but will take place. So in that context, I asked the minister if any of the issues that she is anticipating addressing by means of law, changes to law, etc., if that instrument of a aanschrijving cannot be used. If it can, in which areas that have been highlighted is the minister intending to use aanschrijving to inform the public and the administration of these changes that are anticipated to come. So if I can also get that added to some of the information that I have asked about from the minister. And as I said, as far as I'm concerned, this information can be, at least my questions can be answered in writing, because then we would have them, at hand here in Parliament to look back into, etc. So thank you, Madam Chair Lady.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. MP York, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the viewers, and good afternoon to the Minister and her support staff and honorable members of Parliament. Minister, after sitting and hearing, to you, Madam Chair, after sitting and listening to the Minister's presentation and the contributions of my colleagues, I think it's very important to, we've been speaking about the pending or deliberating about the pending tax what's the word? Tax reform, thank you. The pending tax reform, and the members of the public, at least the ones that I speak to, have gotten a different, they've understood it differently, at least the ones that I speak to, because they see the pending tax reform as something imminent. And, they have a lot of burning questions. Some of the questions have already been answered on here in the floor of Parliament. But I think it's important to manage expectations and for the minister to give not a timeline, but a realistic goal that the minister is working towards, to say, hey, the tax reform is something that we are striving to achieve by the year 2027, 2028. And I hope to have more pertaining to necessary tendering or whatever by the end of 2026 or 2025, more of a timeline, because even in the contributions just now from my colleague, MP Irian, a lot of people didn't know that the tax reform was a process that was already started, taken to court. The government did an appeal, so everything has to start all over again. So with that being the case, what is the realistic expectation of basically starting from ground zero? And what can the people expect of the new reform. The minister went in depth about it during the budget debate, but I think it's very much important to keep repeating what the minister is working on and how she's planning on doing it, even though I know that can be tiresome, but it's to get the message out and to prevent further confusion. So I would like to thank the minister for her presentation, and something that I've been speaking on and mentioning from day one of sitting in this seat. I think it's very important to always be aware of the message that is being sent out, whether via the floor of Parliament or private social medias or interviews or whatever, because I always say that once something is on the internet, you can't take it back. And Madam Chair, I think in the last couple of months, we've had many instances whether something was said during whichever period under whatever environment, and then either contradicted or taken back or corrected here on the floor of Parliament, and all of these things could be avoided. So I would like to again stress to the minister that, especially in the seat that the minister holds, everything that comes out of her mouth will be taken basically as Bible, and people, especially if it's in the benefit of them, won't forget. So to be extra vigilant with things like that, and especially articles that can be written on the words used by the minister, and in this case, the confusion that it has caused in the public. Thank you, Madam Chair, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Member